A lot to hit. Thanks for joining us. Tom Lydon with you. And tonight, we scrap our regular format to hit the topic on the minds of most sports fans around here. The Michigan football team under scrutiny after a report in the Detroit Free Press alleging possible violations as it relates to practice time and workout time. And we are pleased tonight to be joined by the men who worked on the story, broke the story on Freep.com last night. Michael Rosenberg, a columnist at the Free Press, and Mark Snyder, who covers Michigan football and basketball for the paper. Guys, I know stories like this don't happen overnight. You've been working on it for a long time. A ton of reaction. For those who didn't read it or haven't been following the news, set the stage. What did you uncover in this investigation? Essentially, we had basically 6 players on most of this stuff say a few things. One, the NCAA limits teams to required activities of 8 hours a week, 2 hours a day in the off-season. These guys said they work 2 and 3 times that much. The NCAA says you cannot have any staffers present for 7-on-7 drills in the off-season. These guys said staffers were often present. The NCAA also says 4 hours a day, 20 hours a week total during the regular season for required football-related activities. These guys said it was 9 or 10 hours on Sunday and more than 20 for the week. All right, so what's your motivation to pursue this story? What made you think there might be a compliance issue? And then once you hear from one guy, 2 guys, that you start to realize that this might really be a big issue.
I think that was the situation, is the more we heard and the more that was brought to us, the more we realized that this was a significant problem. When it's only one guy, you say, well, okay, maybe he has a problem. But when it's multiple guys, you say, well, you know, there must be something there. We need to find out what's going on and see whether this is legitimate.
You know, some people have a problem with anonymous players coming out talking about it. Nobody willing to put their name on the record when it came to the practices of the 2008 season? They were not. Terrence Taylor was actually quoted on the record at the time talking about the Sundays, and that is in the story. And we were certainly wary of that. That's why we felt we needed so many sources. And what was interesting to us is we conducted these interviews all separately. We didn't tell the players who else we talked to. And we just asked them to lay out their weeks. And the interviews, it was one after another, was almost identical, saying the same exact thing. Did you find anybody who said these players or the parents of the players that you also talked to weren't telling the truth? I haven't heard that yet. The only thing I've heard is everybody's doing it. And as you know, that's not going to fly with the NCAA. They're going to have to come up with something different. That's the #1 response from most fans. Come on, this team was 3-9 last year. If it's going to take a little kick in the butt from the coaching staff to tell these guys to work a little bit more, what's wrong with that? Well, first of all, the kick in the butt started 8 months before they went 3-9, so I'm not sure about cause and effect there. But it's not we don't make the rules, okay? I'm not with the NCAA. The fact is, according to the NCAA's mandates, if they find what the players said, which was that these were continuous and willful intentional violations, by the NCAA standard, those are major violations. We just said this is what the players said. That's going to be up to the NCAA to determine if they believe that's true.
There are multiple violations, so it's not just one issue. It's not just 2 issues. We found 3 issues that were all significant and all had varying levels of interest, you know, and that people were passionate about because it meant a lot to them that they felt that they were being taken advantage of. To the best of your ability, try to explain why are these rules put in place? Why 8 hours a week during the off-season, 20 hours a week during the regular season? Well, these are not professional athletes. They're supposed to be able to get an education if they want to. They're supposed to be able to have a life, especially in the off-season, and that's why the rules are there. They were instituted in the 90s for the health, well-being of student athletes. We should tell Michigan's side of the story. There were statements released. Let's start with the first statement that was released by Coach Rodriguez, and that was actually sent to you on Friday. Head coach Rich Rodriguez said this: "We know the practice and off-season rules, and we stay within the guidelines. We follow the rules and have always been completely compliant with all NCAA rules." Now, today, we also got a statement from Athletic Director Bill Martin. It said this: "We are committed to following both the letter and the intent of all NCAA rules. We take all allegations of violation seriously. We believe we have been compliant with NCAA rules, but nonetheless, we have launched a full investigation of the allegations in today's newspaper. We've already reached out to the Big Ten and the NCAA. We will have more to say on this as soon as we have completed our assessment." In terms of the Martin investigation, you know, that's what the university has to investigate when there's such large attention and there's significant violations and there are multiple people talking about them. They have to do their own inquiry to at least show that they're taking this seriously. And then from there, what happens, I guess, is to be determined based on what they found.
Right. That does not preclude the NCAA from coming in and doing it. And one thing that is really interesting about this case, and it makes it different, for example, from the Ed Martin case, the basketball case, which dragged on forever, those players had already left the school. The NCAA had no power over them. The NCAA, by their own rules, can require any current student athlete to talk to them.
That means not only current Michigan football players, but anybody who is transferred to another school. That means that Michigan has to be concerned with what those players might say.
Okay, a couple questions to you guys about the way you went about this a little bit. The kids who were identified, besides Terrence Taylor, they were freshmen. I want to know, and I'm sure other people want to know, in what context were those freshmen who are new to the program asked about this topic?
Well, I'm the one who asked them, so I guess I'll answer. It was very straightforward. What are your off seasons like? I didn't say we're working on this story about violations. I just said, simple question, answer it. And we had a long talk about, can we use this? Is this fair? And what we decided was it was too important not to use it, because nobody could say these guys had an axe to grind against Rodriguez. They're just stating the facts. We felt it gave a lot of weight to the story. We made a conscious decision not to use those quotes too high up in the story, to put them next to each other, and to say the players were not complaining about the coaches and they were just unaware of the rules.
End case scenario, what is most likely, in your guys' opinion, to happen to the Michigan football team?
Well, it's a hard thing to really speculate what the NCAA is going to do, but the fact is, if players are willing to tell the NCAA what they told us, then the NCAA is going to find violations. I believe that. What the sanctions would be, I can't speculate.
Mark, any last
I
word?
think that's the situation with the NCAA, is that it's been kind of scattershot over the years in terms of all violations. They don't have you can look at precedent, and that was one of our hard parts in this situation, is to look at precedent. And we found one similar case, but in the most part, there aren't too many that are exactly the same. Every case is different, and the infractions committees who evaluate them are even different, so their opinions are different. So to predict is almost a shot in the dark.
Well, I greatly appreciate you guys coming in. I know it's an incredibly busy day. You've been working real hard. Nice job with the investigation. We clearly will be following it throughout the next couple of days and weeks.